May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. Brief Memories. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today's brief memory is every great Zen master had an unhappy childhood. I heard Shunryu Suzuki say that. I can't remember the context. I don't think he meant it literally. I'd put it in the not always so box with everything else he said, but no, I would say that is especially not always so. I mean, you can't say that. I would say most likely he was saying it to make someone else feel better. He had great sympathy for people who were suffering a lot. And there were a lot of people who came to Zen Center who were suffering a lot. I don't know what percentage of people are like depressed or unhappy or had difficult childhoods or whatever. And I think, American culture, especially as the decades have progressed, has encouraged people to become aware of trauma or sadness and try to deal with it and overcome it, and maybe sometimes exacerbate it, make people focus on it and not leave it behind, maybe sometimes even create it or create phobias or traumas or problems. It's hard to say. I mean, there's so much of that now, and there's so little of that where I live here in Bali. It's hard to know. I mean, I guess it's a matter of balance. I'd say probably here there should be more awareness that, if someone has a problem, there's people they can go to. I've been around a lot of 12-step stuff here, and sometimes it's difficult for Indonesians to get involved with this 12-step program, admit they have a problem with drugs or alcohol, because there tends to be more of a stigma, like there was in the States when I was a kid. There was a time when any politician who had any, who'd seen a psychiatrist or had, gone for treatment somewhere, that was the end of their career. Eagleton, isn't that his name? McGovern chose as his first, chose to be his running mate when he ran. Turned out he'd had some psychiatric help and maybe he spent some time in an institution. That was the end. That was the end of him. It was like a horrible thing. Well, we can't have a crazy man be vice president. He could be the president. Ha 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 ha. That's changed, huh? Well, Dogen, who founded the Soto sect, it seems maybe his way-seeking mind dates back to being, just a little tiny kid and sitting over his mother's dead body, watching the incense rise that was around her. Now, I would think probably it was not like she died and he found her. in Japan, many people follow the practice of keeping the body in the home for some period of time. I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, some people practice 3 days, and then you really have to know how to prepare the body for that. A number of people I've known in America did that. Yvonne Ram was an expert at helping people prepare bodies and do that. I think it's a good idea. And I have sat with people after they died, before they died and after they died. So getting a little far afield there. But anyway, I've certainly noticed a lot of people with unhappy childhoods coming to practice. Maybe more than the average, but I don't really know. And, there's people who are aware of their unhappy childhood, and there are people who aren't. So it's really hard. I really can't quantify any of that. But Suzuki did like to comfort people who were suffering or down. We might not have had much of an understanding of how to deal with psychological problems. There's a much better understanding of that these days. And Zen teachers, at least around the Zen Center, the San Francisco Zen Center, pretty much know not to substitute, Zen teaching for psychological counseling or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying I totally believe in psychological counseling as the solution to everything. I don't at all. I like methods like Byron Katie's to drop it. I mean, that's my trip. You've got a problem, something, she's dealt with a lot of trauma victims, and her way of doing it was just getting them to drop it. And I worked with a psychic. I knew a psychic quite well who was a very strong psychic, and that was his trip too, getting people to recognize what their problem was, what the root of it was, and essentially to make it go away by understanding it, seeing it clearly, and just giving yourself new marching orders. But it's not always that easy, like I know people who've done every possible trip to deal with their suffering. I mean, every New Age trip, every psychological trip, every type of therapy. Not necessarily every type of drug. I don't know what the drugs are called that help people with, chronic depression, anxiety, antipsychotic drugs. I don't know anything about any of that. So there's a lot of that too. So that's just for the person to decide. But a lot of us have just turned to Zen, have turned to practice, have turned to meditation. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I feel differently. I feel different on different days. Some days I'm sort of up, Some days I'm sort of down. I'm going, And you know what I tell myself? Don't pay any attention to it. Don't worry about it. Just say thank you. Or do what you're doing. It doesn't matter. That's what I tell myself. You can tell yourself what you want. But sometimes, I can't quite get rid of it. So I always clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up first. And sometimes I can take like an hour because I get tired at night and I can't necessarily clean up after dinner, which is my job. So I have a lot more energy for it in the morning. So, a lot of times I get up in the morning, I clean up in the kitchen and drink hot water, that's all. And then I go out and clean up anything outside the front gate because they're being a good neighbor if you make it in front of your place, all spiffy and clean. And these days I just pick up. I pick up any leaves rather than sweeping them because it's good exercise. I sort of squat down and pick up one with my, maybe there would be like 20 little leaves in front, and there might be 20. There's usually more flowers than leaves, which is nice. And I pick them up and I divide them into the ones that look good and the ones that are, dried out or dark or even black. And the darker ones, the ones that don't look so good, we save and give to a poor person who then sells them for soap. So we dry them for them. And the good ones, it's a little plant. Well, there's a lot of plants in front, but there's one particular one in a pot, and I lay them. They're frangipani. I lay them all around. And frangipani, they don't last long. At least ours don't. They're good for 2 days. Some are good for 1 day, some are good for 2 days, and rarely some are good for 3 days. So then, I collect the bad ones and put the good ones there. But anyway, then I usually then inside the gate in our courtyard, I will get the leaves and leave the flowers. And we get a lot of flowers sometimes. I mean, there's, 100 flowers in the courtyard. I like to get the leaves and leave the flowers. And, sometimes somebody will come in and they'll start sweeping. We go, no, we leave the leaves. Workers especially, they might say a carpenter will come and he'll think, oh, first thing I'll do is I'll sweep their courtyard. And I'll say, no, we leave the leaves. All right, so then all that's done. Then I do some walking meditation and I have this little chant I go through, may all beings be happy and a lot of stuff like that. And I end that with the 4 vows in Japanese. Shujomo Hensei Gandon, Bono Mujin Seigan Dan, Homon Muryo Seigan Gaku, Butsudo Mujo Seigan Jo. Beings are numberless, I vow to awaken with them. I don't like to say save them. I mean, I do sometimes, but, I sort of know what it means in a sense, or I know what I think it means. But I like to say I vow to awaken with them. Maybe that's, it might be just better to say save them, because awaken with them, when you get into being too, you say, oh, what I really like to say is that. Maybe sometimes you're overthinking it, So the next one is, that's why I do say sometimes I vow to save them. Then the next one is Bonamujin Seganda. The evil desires are the thieves of the mind, the kleshas, the greed, hate, and delusion is endless. They're endless. I've got to cut them off. And then the third one is Homamuryo Seigangaku. The Dharma gates are endless. I've got to enter them. And then Butsudo Mojo Seiganjo, the Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. I do not say I vow to become it, which has become very popular, and that's my fault because, way back, 50 years ago or something, I was doing a little study of it, and I was writing the basic meanings of that last Japanese word, and one of them is to become. And so people went, I vow to become it. That's good. And I asked Shohaku Okumura. I asked him publicly in a big talk he was giving at Gringo, and the question and answer about that, and he said, no, it would be better not to use I vow to become him. He agreed. Anyway, I said that, and then I said, all right, now the whole point of all this was just to say that I have awakened maybe a little disturbed about how things are going with some things, very mundane. I go, oh, wow, don't worry about it. Good Lord, man, it's just your phenomenal life. It's a dream. Forget it. Just do your best minute by minute and drop it, But what really works is sitting. It changes it. And if it's bothering me, if I keep going back to something, I just start counting. And, the longer I sit, go, well, that was nice. And then I bow and I do a few moves and go make some tea. So maybe all great people had an unhappy childhood. Maybe we all suffer. Maybe we all have difficulty. Maybe we all have incompleteness. Maybe we all can't get no satisfaction. But then we all are destined to Buddhahood. Don't take my word for it, it's what Buddha said. But he said, don't take my word for it, try it out. This has been a Cuke Audio extended mini podcast. I'm DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Dogget Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.